Hello and welcome to Politics Today. I'm Farooq Patafi. At this moment, I am in Quetta, and today we are going to interview the Chief Minister of Balochistan, Jam Kamal Sahab, that is not all. It is important at this moment because the Balochistan budget was presented day before yesterday, and at that time, since the national media is obsessed with various other things, nobody had the kind of time to focus on something that was happening in the major part of the country and which is very significant. While you are in the city, you realize that so much is going on, and in Balochistan also there are pledges and there are developments which are astounding. So let me first welcome the Chief Minister. Thank you very much, sir, for your time, and thank you very much for being part of the program. So let us start with the budget itself. We have seen that this time it is a deficit budget, somewhere around 40 billion rupees deficit. What exactly is it that led to a deficit budget?
For the last many years, Balochistan has always been giving a deficit budget. And one of the core reasons behind giving a deficit budget has been a very ambitious development plan which all the governments had in mind. For the last, I would say, to be very precise, I think so it's the 8th or 9th year that the deficit has been increasing. Well, this time what we have done is, because when you're carrying a deficit budget, so you have to manage their deficit budget also. So in order to explain it in very layman's words, is basically if you have 1,000 rupees, but you have plans of doing things worth 1 lakh rupees, so you have to balance your budget, and then you go into a deficit budget. What we did basically for the last 6-8 months, we had a carry forward for the last many governments, a carry forward of nearly 450 billion rupees, which is part of the deficit itself. So we have to expedite it every year. What we did is we brought that down to nearly 120 billion. And that was, we had to cut down many schemes which were redundant in this PSDP book, which were just there for many years with no expeditation, with no work, no financial investment in those. So we had to take them off. And so we did a prioritization of what was in those development plans. And after doing a very thorough exercise, and we had to give up a new plan of development also. We have, alhamdulillah, increased our PSDP, the budget development budget, but at the same time, we had what we had. So if you compare it to the last government's budget, what happened? They had a deficit of nearly another 40 to 50 billion rupees. But what difference it is, they had a budget of 80 billion, but actually they had 20 billion. But with us, it's a little different. If our deficit is 40%, it's actually 40%. Their deficit was not 40%, it was actually 70%. So that's how
it was being underreported.
It was being underreported. So we have reduced it. One. And at the same time, we have increased the development plan from 80 billion to 100 billion this time.
Wow, that is a significant amount. But when you look at the breakup, one thing is astounding, and that is 30 billion, around 30 billion for healthcare, and 44 billion for law and order. How do you explain it?
If you see the budget, it has two components. One is basically the salary component, the allowances, and the non-development side. And we go on the other side, that's basically the development part of the PSDP and the overall budget. When you mix them both, the numbers do become very big at times. But if you see them, if you dissect them, then you can easily understand them. So the budget of police and law and order is high, not because of the investment that we are doing in it. It's basically high because of the number of people we have in those two departments, which is levies and police. And at the same time, if you see health, in health, yes, we have a very big human resource, which comes under the pays and allowances. But at the same time, there's a lot of investment in terms of infrastructure, many other things which the health services need. So few of the areas, the numbers are high because of the number of human resource that complies to law and order departments, and then it applies to basically the education also. So in these two sectors, we have a very big number of people working as employees.
In education, you have actually pledged quite a big number,
Yes.
60 billion rupees.
Ji.
That is very impressive.
Yes.
But since I was pointing out this difference between healthcare and law and order, the purpose was also to highlight that this province has a history of a very tough law and order situation.
Ji.
So how is the situation improving now?
For example, there are two, again, components in law and order. One, yes, Balochistan has a very peculiar situation when it comes to its law and order situation. We are neighbor to countries which are, the boundaries are quite big. Like we have a very huge boundary with Iran, and then we have a very big one with Afghanistan, which is the main component. You know what has been happening in Afghanistan for the last many decades. And that has direct and indirect impact on Balochistan and part of KP also. Then we had, being a very big province itself, 44% in land, and if we include the coastlines, it goes to nearly 51% of Pakistan's jurisdiction. So in order to have a bigger space, you also need to have a bigger mechanism to control it. But in the last many years, we have seen Balochistan's budgetary provisions, it does not allow it to keep extra funding for the administrative authorities so that they can manage the law and order better. So what we were given, whatever funding we had been given, we had to manage it within that. So normally it happens, I'll give you a very small example. We have one division which is called the Rakshan division. Rakshan division is nearly the size of KPK or maybe bigger also. So you can imagine a province as compared to one division. So in order to control this whole province, you can imagine if we can combine all the divisions of Balochistan together, what kind of administrative setup we need, how much fiscal space we need to mobilize all these people, because law and order you cannot just control by sitting in Quetta.
Right.
You need to have your presence in the districts, at the border, in the law and order enforcing jurisdictions, and so on, many other things. So again, how we are doing it, what we have done right now, we are doing 3-4 steps. The first thing is we are revamping the whole levy structure which we have in Balochistan. We have merged the few of the B areas into A areas, which is the police area. We are strengthening the levy SCADA system. Like in the past, a lot has been taught about B area, and in the national media, I've seen many of the anchors, many of the political people who see B area as this is not right, this should not be happening. But in the last 15-20 years, nothing has been done for levies. A levy sipai and a risaldar is still the same who used to be 30 years back.
So too much lip service, hardly any work done so far.
It has always been lip service.
But this time it is changing.
What we have done is we are investing in terms of infrastructure and human resource cadre systems in levies. We are giving them a lot of additional departments which they need in order to function as a law enforcing authority. We are facilitating them with infrastructure of more thanas and other things. We're getting them trained in collaboration with police and armed forces. We're increasing their cadre capacity of different departments, like we need to have disposal of bombs disposal services. We need to bring in investigation authorities in them, and so on many other sections of departments too. And at the other side with police, what we are trying to do is in terms of counterterrorism, we are developing it now at the divisional level. It has already been done, but we are focusing it more. The whole coastal belt does not really have a proper levies or police infrastructure. But now that it has come into area, we are forming more than 14 centers of police stations and police community-based services kind of things, which should incorporate for the whole coastline. And at the same time, we are thinking and we are expediting the safe city projects. We've already started one in Quetta, which was lingering around for nearly 8 to 10 years. Alhamdulillah, as we came in, we have started it. That's happening in Quetta. But we'll be now taking it to the major cities of Balochistan also. We are trying to equip our police structure and the levy structure with new technology things, highly equipped things.
That's a very ambitious program actually.
It's being done.
And it has begun.
It's being done. So the only thing which we are doing, we're enhancing it.
While we are talking about governance and the quality of governance, your party, your government actually took over in less than a year ago. And since then, I'm sure that while you're talking about all these projects, you must have done some kind of capacity audit as well. It seems that in the past, there was a lot of money that was pledged from the center. For example, Aghazi-Haquq-e Balochistan package. Whether that money actually translated into reality is another question. So what exactly is it? Corruption or capacity issues?
It's a combination of both. There has been, when you don't have a good governance mechanism in place, corruption automatically comes in.
Okay.
It's very obvious, like if a lot of projects are going on, and if the concerned government authorities are not going into the area, they're not visiting the projects, and they don't have the mechanism to even go and visit the projects. So it's in human nature, and especially in a kind of environment we are in Pakistan and then again in Balochistan, people tend to just fudge everything there. Okay. I would second your statement as yes, the trickle-down effect has not happened, and that is the basic issue of Balochistan.
Okay.
Everything is quite centralized in Balochistan and Quetta. Whether it's to be the development plans, the recruitment processes, the management, how should the government functionaries function in the districts, how the commissioners should work, how the secretaries should work. My first task was to basically make a mechanism of putting up a good governance structure. Okay. So what we have done is basically, we have made a quite good balance of human resource intake in the main sectoral ministries which are therein. Okay. Let's say my secretariat itself, this secretariat of the CM secretaries is the core 80% policy making. Okay. And if this delivers, and if it's out of corruption, it's more transparent, it's more accountable. The officers, the environment of this office is not like what maybe it used to be in the past, but that's where everything goes further on. Okay. So what my task was to make sure that I started from our own office. And the same goes with the main two departments that we have. One is finance, and the second is planning and development. So what we have done is in the finance and P&D, we have done a lot of reforms so that this trickle-down effect to the masses happens in the right and true manner. Okay. Then what we have in the divisional headquarter levels are our commissionerates. So the responsibility has been given to all the commissioners that they'll keep a check and balance and everything is happening in their jurisdiction. Okay. And I personally watch it. I personally watch them through WhatsApp. I personally watch them, I've made their groups. Okay. And I comment to them, I ask them, they update me all the time. Yeah. So that they should know the chief executive of the province he knows what we are doing. Right. And if the government mechanism starts functioning by even going to the places, things start improving themselves. Okay. And they have the same mechanism for the deputy commissioners, for the line department heads, and so on. So in order to make it more of a governance which should deliver, by doing only these few things, we have revived a lot of schools which were not functional. Okay. We have revived a lot of health centers which were not functioning. You can imagine there are health centers which have started doing surgery after 10 years. There have been a lot of them. We've cut down wages of many of the teachers. We have revived back the schools. Okay. A lot of departments are going now, truly doing what they should be doing. Right.
Since, once again, we are talking about the pledges that were made by the center in the past. And we have seen now your government, your party is actually a coalition ally at the center as well. The federal government has announced that it is going to have an audit of past 10 years of borrowing. So is it not appropriate for your government as well to actually ask for some kind of audit of all the pledges that were made? Because you are saying that it might be a combo of both corruption and capacity, but the money didn't actually trickle down. And evidently, this money is not in your accounts right now. So where did it go?
The money, everything has come into Balochistan. Okay. Everything has come in. It has never been borrowed. Basically, after the 18th Amendment, it has always been as a receipt from the government, for the federal government, in a divisible pool and so on. The main question which we also had as I came as a new chief minister with the coalition party and the cabinet and all, now where is the money going? like I said, there are two components. One is the salary component. The salary component is something which you cannot touch. The jobs, the salary component goes to people. And that's like 70 to 80% of the whole budget. Then there's a component of 5 to 6 billion rupees, which is called the contingency budget that we have for the departments. That includes grants and POL and buying of assets and functioning of the government through that money. So that's like 6 billion, and that is the other component is something like close to 280 billion. The PSDP has always been like 40 to 50 billion, 30 billion, started from 20 billion in the last 8 years and finally has reached this time 100 billion. But what has happened, this money has not really trickled down the way it should have been.
Okay.
The reasons behind it, the way the PSDP has been made, it's something you are carrying a responsibility of for the last 20, 30 years. All those schemes are still in this PSDP.
Okay.
And they're parked in, they are not being utilized properly, they are mismanaged. Your funds are just going in these big holes and getting dissolved. There are schemes which are just block allocations, like 5 billion for making roads in Balochistan. Where exactly are you making them? There's no differentiation. There are no identifications. So what we have done at this time, we have cut down nearly 3,000 such schemes from this PSDP. Second, what we have done, there are nearly 169 schemes which are of this kind of nature, but have performed well in some sectors also. But we have put them aside in another annex chain of the PSDP, which shall be evaluated by us. The CMIT, which is the Chief Minister Inspection Committee, has thoroughly examined more than 1,000 schemes in the whole of the province. And we are making an audit report of all those schemes which are in this PSDP and how much they are on ground. So if you have an audit system like this, and if you have a rationalizing mechanism of PSDP where we see what's needed, what's not needed. And thirdly, if you make a PSDP which is more realistic and which should really depict the true needs of the districts. For the first time, you can ask the parliamentarians, the whole stakeholders, the departments. We have given funds to a lot of departments which for the last 15 years have never gotten a penny even in terms of proper investing in their sectors. So it's been a holistic approach, keeping all segments of the society in our mind, where social aspect is there, education is there, service is there, law and order is there, infrastructure, even schemes. We are investing in schemes which should be giving us returns in future. That's so very important for us. So keeping all these things, we have made this PSDP. We have done some auditing mechanism in it. We have proposed new things. We have made it as a short-term, a mid-term, and a long-term PSDP this time. We have kept policies in this. We are investing so that we get money back also. So it's been done in a very big manner. And whatever gray areas which we felt are wrong and are occupying a lot of money in it, we have kept it separate. So that we'll evaluate them and we'll make sure that whatever good has happened in them, it's fine, and whatever things which have not been done, like you have said, money has come in, has gone where? So there has to be some place where it has gone. So if it has not gone, so we'll identify those. We have a mechanism of investigating those, and we'll try to bring in people to some kind of justice to it.
That is also important because former secretary, if I remember, during the previous government, a stash of money was found from his own home. And we don't know how it came to be and what happened.
True.
But since your government is actually carrying on with the liabilities, inherited the liabilities of the previous governments as well, which especially includes not merely the budgetary liabilities, but also legal aspects. For example, Rikodik and umpteen others. Perhaps it is time that there is some kind of audit of the past as well, so we know what went wrong and what can be corrected.
Rikodik should have been seen or addressed very professionally in the past. But somehow there were political decisions. The concerns were right.
Political and legal.
The political was more, when you're very anxious about your assets. Everybody should be. You have an asset, you're more worried it should not just go into waste. But we had an agreement with international firms. So we, for a time period, maybe forgot that there will be some legal implications to our decisions.
Okay.
So what should have been done, keeping this phenomena in mind, keeping the whole scenario in mind, whatever decision which we are trying to bring in, keeping Recordec in mind, we should have called all these stakeholders, and whatever apprehensions were there, we should have communicated them first to all those stakeholders.
Right.
But somehow some decisions were taken keeping emotions more in mind and not the consequences. So what is the consequence? That today, as we have lost the case, Pakistan, but Balochistan has to pay for it.
Right.
So how will we pay for it is a big question. And secondly, the money is so huge. Maybe it comes more than 5 billion or 7 billion or 3 billion even.
Yeah, that.
But to today's level, even if it comes to like 1 billion, our whole PSDP is 1 billion.
Yeah.
So imagine
It is
like...
a crushing amount.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we did not keep in mind the bilateral agreements Pakistan has with many countries.
Okay.
So now it's management. So what we are trying to manage is try to bring in all stakeholders, the private sector in Pakistan. We've already started working on this. Recordec is just one part of it. Balochistan is too huge in mineral resources and mine resources. We are trying to bring in first the Pakistani investors in Pakistan. They should come in. We have engaged with them.
No, I get that part. And we are going to talk about your ambition or your plans as well. But what I'm trying to actually ask here is there are, people, for example, in Recordec's case, you said there was an agreement and it was cancelled in hurry. So somebody must have actually signed that agreement first. Somebody must have cancelled.
Yes.
When are you going to approach them and ask them to pay for this fine?
As you know, the first thing was decided by the court.
Okay.
And then it was basically the government of Balochistan.
Okay.
And
you're talking about cancellation bill.
Cancellation.
Not the agreement itself, the terms and conditions.
Not the terms and agreement, I think so, when the terms and agreement were more of commercial terms and agreements.
Okay.
You can, even if today a company comes in, we'll have a terms and agreements on all those things.
Absolutely.
It's all about how much the company is going to get, how much the province is going to get, what are the stakes of the federation, the local areas. That's done everywhere in the world.
Right.
That's something very common. The other thing is what we cancelled. Did we keep all these aspects in mind? And while we were doing all that, did we really think what will happen if it comes back to us? Or it was just an emotional decision we took and not keeping the legal requirements and the futuristic requirements of, the Balochistan has to pay. Maybe one CM did not think about it, but today I am. If the verdict comes today that government of Balochistan has to pay 4 billion, we have to pay. Okay. There's no other option to it.
It is laudable.
So what we can do is there should be a political accountability of this, because some decisions are more political.
Okay.
If that government declared it as not right, today there should be a social accountability on that. There should be a political accountability on that.
Okay.
We can't just simply forget what wrong decisions were made.
You're not going to ask them to actually pay up the money.
No, pay up the money. Well, as you know, it's a big thing. When it comes to then maybe they'll say you did not fight the case well, and so on, many other things. Paying up is a total different, because it's more of it's like penalizing us from those stakeholders. It's more of a penalization in international court.
If they say you didn't fight it well, you can say most of the time you were fighting, right? Yes. We were out of the government at that time. But regardless, when it comes to corruption, how big a problem corruption is in this province?
It is, as compared to any other province. I would say it's more or less more, I guess, in the whole country to some extent. It's kind of a thing which I think so has developed for the last few decades.
No finance secretary of the country was found with a stash of money of crores in his living home.
I think so. In recent years, we have found more bigger cases than that also.
Okay, but this is an example to show you that how raw the corruption might be.
That's right. Over here, what happens, the level of corruption and how openly it's happening in Balochistan or was happening in Balochistan. I'm sure corruption happens globally, but obviously how they manage it, how they do it, it's a different section. But accepting this phenomena in Balochistan that, you can do anything now, that was the mindset we developed in the last 15, 20 years.
Okay.
Like it's a right to do corruption, it's a right to take bribe, it's a right to openly ask about it, it's a right to openly take it also. I'll give you an example of this PSDP that we have made. It's not that we have made it and we are trying to proclaim it, but it's for the first time people did not witness unnecessary involvement of contractors and government officials and running around the departments and trying to put in their schemes and trying to get out their schemes and influencing officers and secretaries and stakeholders to get in cash and put huge amount of money in the PSDP, which can be then done for corruption.
Okay.
So we had totally closed all those windows.
Okay. You had closed the windows, or it was not that discernible because people might be able to do whatever they want to. So they are corrupt.
If you have an involvement in the whole process, then you minimize it. Like I would say, for the last 3 months, we've been engaged in this PSDP manner.
Okay.
Anything coming in this book, why it should come in, what priority is being set for it. Is it an individual scheme or is it for the community? Is it for a bigger policy thing? We evaluated all these things day and night.
Okay.
And finally, when we were there to make it, so when everything is happening in front of you and you're part of it, then you close such windows.
Okay.
And that's what should have been done in the past also. Normally, the executive of the province was never involved in these things.
Okay.
The maximum number of involvement was by few ministers or rest of the stakeholders. So the rest of the stakeholders who were involved in making this PSDP was 65%. And the main stakeholders were hardly 30%.
Okay.
So now if the main stakeholders, people, the executive, all are 95% involvement, so you shut down many such options of penetrating into this PSDP of 100 billion.
It is because of two things you are saying. One, transparency. B, your personal involvement.
Yes, that's what was required.
This is,
and the involvement of the cabinet also.
Okay, every time I talk about audit of other people, it is laudable that you are not saying that, okay, take my predecessors to task. It is laudable.
No, I think so.
But you'll have to start saying it. Otherwise, perhaps we won't have the kind of examples that we need.
No, we have done it. We have initiated many of such programs. We have initiated many investigations on many of the schemes. It's already there. A lot of factors are slowly and gradually coming down. We have really made our anti-corruption body, which was redundant for many years. It has mobilized again. We have put in good officers to go deeper and see what has gone wrong by which concerned authority. Like I said, the Chief Minister inspection team has been there for a very long time, but it was a parking place for OSD officers.
Yeah.
So now we are changing it. We are we need to bring in people who should go and do some work. So, but the kind of a legal mechanism we have in Pakistan, it's not very easy to really curb down such things. If it would have been a simple decision, somebody involved in, bring it down, get some evidences, and you're done with it. This does not happen in Pakistan. There are the long processes and undue hindrances which come in. But if there's a start, at least people do know the message that they are serious in their business.
Okay.
We are serious now. We are serious what has been done wrong, and we'll be very much serious what will be happening in future also.
Okay.
So all these processes, mechanisms, and steps have been initiated against many.
But regarding mechanisms, is it solely the province's role or responsibility to hold people accountable, or there is some kind of convergence of provincial remit and also NAB?
Well, NAB is, as you know, NAB has a more biggest jurisdiction. It's over Pakistan, and there is
two provinces, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Sindh, actually opted out, and they created their own bodies.
Well, for such entities, I think so. It's much important to have it should be a balanced or a neutral body which should be doing all these things.
Okay.
If they come under the government influence, obviously the government decisions influence shall come on those individuals also. But I think so the NAB mechanism is one factor which still keeps people at their toes, that if something goes wrong, there's something which can bring us accountable. But if tomorrow we bring them down under our own departments, then you can imagine, how much influence we can have by just removing secretaries and officers here and there and get decisions done of what we want them to be done. So it's very important that the authorities should be neutral.
Okay.
Yes, the mechanism of making it more neutral and getting more stakeholders in between.
And perhaps more province-oriented rather
That can
than
be
the
done. That can be done to some extent.
Okay.
But again, I would say more than NAB, I would say is the judiciary has a major role. I think so. The ultimate role comes to the judiciary of making sure that all such mechanisms which are happening or are in place in Pakistan should function to the utmost.
Okay. I'm told that we are left with less and less time, so I have to actually start talking about the complicated, touchy subjects as well. One is smuggling. In the past, we have heard that there is huge, volume of smuggling that goes on in this region, and I don't only mean the province. I mean Afghanistan, Iran, and Pakistan sits right in the middle. So, what are you doing to fix that problem?
Well, mostly, as you know, smuggling comes more of a jurisdiction with the federal government. Because when it concerns to smuggling, there's nothing that we are as indigenous producers of those. Okay. Pakistan is not a producer of heroin or hashish or maybe illegal items which are there in our neighboring countries.
Luxury items. And
so what we have done is we have sensitized the federation more on this, so that if the border control system becomes much better, we have customs, we have FIA. If the bordering things are betterly placed, it will reduce it further. There's a very big step which has been taken and which has our consent in it also, and the role which is being done by the army and by the other federal government of fencing the whole borders with Afghanistan and Iran. Yeah. And that's one component. If you have a border which is open like more than 3,000 kilometers, and no matter what kind of a policy you have in place, it's porous, it's open, anybody can come in and anybody can go out. Okay. So once this fencing is going to be made and it's going to be watched properly, and if there are infrastructure roads going all the way throughout this fencing, this will reduce it to a very big size. Okay. And at the local level, what we do is our law enforcing authorities that we have as police and levies. And the things which come on the roads, the things which we do get info on are obviously apprehended in all things. But the border mechanism needs to be more stronger, for which I think so the Ministry of Interior has to play a more vigilant, and at the same time I would request the federal government to put in more resources with us, with the army and with the stakeholders to make sure that we fully secure this fencing system and we make it to the mark which is required. Because
somehow it might be a cultural thing, international cultural thing, but somehow Pakistan becomes the fall guy of whatever happens in the neighborhood. It is not merely only restricted to smuggling. For example, there's
trafficking.
Human trafficking, and then there's talk of terrorism. Our land, especially Balochistan, being used against another country. Iran has its concerns, and Afghanistan has been talking about it as well. So what are we doing to fix that problem?
The concerns which maybe other countries like Iran and Afghanistan have, we have more concerns maybe than they have. As you know, Kulboshan case is one example. Kulboshan case is an example of a country which is India, which has
a hostile country.
His serving officer being caught in Balochistan, coming from another neighboring country, and being around in Afghanistan and Iran. And so these are the concerns which Pakistan also has. And like I said, when we don't have a proper mechanism of our border controls, then such things do happen, which is like Pakistan does not really enjoy a good relationship with India. And so obviously, if you don't have a good relationship with any of the countries, they try to materialize on all those aspects which can really affect us. And that's why it's very important at any forum. They have always said that it's not only that people have concerns with us, we have more concerns with them.
Right.
If you see things from Jove and Fata and Quetta, all the way going to Taftan, we have a very huge border with Afghanistan. So, and we have caught and we have apprehended many such people who were caught while coming over here, while doing things over here. And in fact, a very open thing you can see is how the Indian Air Force penetrated our jurisdiction. That was an open thing.
Yeah. And nobody actually internationally has highlighted or agitated that point, with the exception of Pakistan. But since you are talking about people apprehended, Kulbhushan's episode is well known. It has been highlighted internationally. But why don't we hear about other cases in the public discourse, for example, in the media, elsewhere? If other people are being apprehended, shouldn't you be showing them to the media?
Well, the level of apprehending people is because this was a unique case of a state employee being caught. Normally, it does not happen like this. In such
coming in your custody along with the legal documents, right?
So normally, when internationally such things happens, you do find people who are from within your country or who are there. They are bought, they are influenced, or anything like that. But this was a unique case, for which a serving officer was caught. But we do have a lot of sympathizers at times within Pakistan. At times, they give a very soft space to such elements that anything which is happening in Pakistan is because of we are involved somewhere and so on, which should not be the case. But I guess it happens globally. It's something which is very normal. You have people who are pro such thing with people who are not pro such things. But alhamdulillah, in Pakistan and in Balochistan, you must have seen there have been a lot of people who were misguided, who basically took a very strong stance against the state and Pakistan, being in Balochistan, living in very remote areas. But once they passed the passage of 6 to 8 years, and they came to really realize that whatever things they were told about are not really true. And they were not part of the society which you and I live in. And somebody living in a very far-flung area which is like 400 kilometers far from Quetta, there's no road, there's no electricity, there's no school or anything else. So for him, the world is just that place.
Little place.
That little place. And if whatever kind of information he is prone to, he'll just absorb it right and there. But alhamdulillah, now as things are progressing, and that's why I and my government and the coalition people thinking, why is development so important to Balochistan? When you'll bring in people in the mainstream, and that's how you will neutralize many of the people who have been brainwashed for many years that the state does not really play an important role in your livelihood. And that's why I keep responsible at times the stakeholders who have been in the Balochistan government for not really doing justice in their work and really taking the development to such far-flung areas and making people's life better. But alhamdulillah, now things have improved a lot. And you must, if you compare it like 10 years back, 15 years back, Balochistan is very different. The people are really mobilized. They are coming in. They are involved. Universities are being made. Colleges are being made. Road infrastructure is going in. Services are being provided. And now these students and people are now traveling to other parts of Pakistan.
And that will increase the exposure.
For the last 4 years, this has been happening. And that has really put up a very positive image of what's there and what's with us. And many of the students who have gone into other provinces, they have said, well, in some parts, we are much better than them. You know, there are many parts in Sindh and KP and Punjab, if you go, you might say like, you know, our village is much better than this one.
And let's hope that entire Pakistan actually grows together. But Balochistan, if it rises beyond anybody's expectation, that will be great. Sub-nationalist militancy and terrorism, where are we at regarding that? Are they still attacking critical infrastructure and people, or that entire phenomenon is going down?
The intensity, the intensity or the concept which was in many people's mind, like I said, a layman's mind, in 15 years has really changed a lot. You know, when true information is not shared, you bring in a lot of people and misguide them. And we have seen that in Pakistan politics also and many other things. That also happened in Balochistan, that they were hijacked. The masses were hijacked for things which were not true. And with time, they changed. So now what we are seeing, the numbers getting really down. Now I would say if maybe one time their strength, let's say, would have been like 1,000, now they must have come to like 100 or 50 or something like that. Okay. I'm not just comparing numbers, it's just an example of percentage. So the percentage has really gone down.
You're giving us some modicum of proportions.
What we have seen in recent incident of Gwadar and the incident of Karachi Consulate and few others, now maybe the main stakeholders coming on ground themselves. That shows like the masses or the number of people who maybe have been following them to be volunteers in this program are not anymore there in those big numbers. Okay. And that's why the main stakeholders, which are like commanders and the top guys, are now themselves coming down. So that shows that the thing has lost its strength to a very big extent.
Okay. So people who surrender or are caught, how are they mainstreamed? Are they brought to justice? Or are they brought back to society?
I think so. It's we do have a mechanism in our constitution. Yeah. We have a mechanism in law of apprehension, different kind of peoples who are caught in this country for small crimes, middle crimes, anti-state crimes, crimes which are beyond, and so in all. So there are defined lines. And majority of those people are being apprehended and dealt according to those laws. Okay. And we have seen in the past, like there was this court facility which was extended to the army, and that was done by the government itself. Yeah, and
the military courts,
the military courts which are established, and because of which I think so there have been a very positive outcome of at least elements which are going beyond and massacring masses and are brought to justice. So it's improving, I think so, with time, and people are now realizing, like people who are, if you say the incident of Ormara, like nearly a lot of...
Ormara was a shocker, a big shocker.
That has been happening, like people who die in Quetta from bomb blasts, and people who die in Gwadar, people who die in PC and so many other places, they are normal, common people. So their lives are as important as of anybody else. Okay. So if we should make a very positive message to everybody, and that happens globally, like, you know, if you go to like US, okay. If you go to like Europe and any place else, they don't compromise on these things. In fact, their Guantanamo Bay was one such policy thing which had gone beyond.
It still is.
It still is, of course. And so does, I think so, in Europe and many other places. If you go to the Middle East, if you go to Iran.
The black sites are there, but we are not comparing our policies with black sites.
I would not say any individual are as important as of an important person.
Right.
But somehow when it comes to masses, like in Pakistan, if commoners die, we are like, okay, you know, we should be seeing our policy.
Old news, common news.
But when it comes to like people dying of, like, you know, maybe there was a big incident, then somehow all the political parties, they rush in and they try to sensitize things and all. Right. So yes, I feel things are moving much better in this phenomena.
What is the government's priority now regarding the people who are still fighting the state? Do you want to arrest them, or do you want them to surrender and come back and become the part of mainstream?
For the last 4 or 5 years, government has been giving a gesture of accepting those people who have, there are categories of involvement. There are people who are involved at very intense level. There are people who are just involved in political ways. There are people who have not been part of any crime which has really affected the people of Pakistan. I think so there's a lot of space in that. Okay. The space is of anybody who has not been a part of any criminal activity. Of taking people's life, really damaging the state or state property is something which you can negotiate on, but you cannot negotiate on people's life, people who have died. So I think so a state should always keep its policies firm.
Okay.
We can compromise on damages,
Okay.
but we cannot compromise on lives.
Especially the bigger crimes that
Of
have been
course, a
committed.
crime
right?
is a crime, whether it's of a single human, of maybe like.
Yeah, but intensity
Yeah,
matters.
it goes beyond.
Okay, let us be a little political now. Let us talk about the politics of center, and let us talk about of the province as well. At the center, actually, there was this chatter that Chairman Senate, who actually belongs to your party, might be removed by People's Party and PMLN. What do you think will be your party's reaction to such a move?
Well, as you know, Chairman Sadiq Sinjarani Saab was elected as a person who came from Balochistan as a senator, and that was widely accepted by the current people who are opposing it. If somebody from Balochistan is coming in, and it's for the first time the representation is given to Balochistan, so it was accepted and supported in a very overwhelming mechanism.
Sure.
But now again, such kind of rumors are coming in for removal of Sadiq Sinjarani Saab just because if he's from our party or he's from a party which has coalition in federation and in the province. That should not be the criteria.
Okay.
I think so. His term should be completed, keeping in view that Balochistan has really serious concerns and some expectations from the federation also.
Right.
We don't have a very big political strength when it comes to the National Assembly.
Yeah. But you do in Senate because of territorial house.
Even
Yeah.
I say, we should take the importance of Balochistan in mind.
Right.
And if the importance of Balochistan and its deprivation and its so many things we just talked about are there, such a move would not give a good name to especially Pakistan People's Party and PMLN, who have always been saying or claiming that they have talked about Aghazi Hukuk-e-Balochistan.
Right.
So and I don't want to be saying it, but they should not be now doing like Aghazi Hukuk-e-Balochistan and now doing Ikhtitam Hukuk-e-Balochistan.
Yeah.
So they should not be part of that.
Okay.
It's a term. It's a term and a Senate term is not a very political term.
It is
a Senate assembly is more of a federating system, and most of the work is done in the National Assembly.
All right. One more question. Another coalition allied at the center, although not in the province, Akhtar Mengal Saab. His 6 points, his complaints have been there. One aspect that is very important, he keeps on highlighting, and it pertains to the past, missing persons. How is that concern being fixed?
Sardarzada Akhtar Mengal's stance as a political party has always been on such grounds for the last many years.
Okay.
BNP Mengal is basically has come down after many other parties. He himself, his party, other people, if you go back from NAB time, that's how it has all evolved from NAB, and then it went to like BNM was there, and then so many other fragments, and finally in BNP we saw BNP Awami and BNP Mengal.
Yeah.
So we are stuck with these in brackets names. His party has always, for the last many years, talked about the missing persons and people who maybe their party feels they are more affected from it. The people of Balochistan who are currently in this scenario have their own ways of dealing in political manners. He has taken a stance, that's his political stance during the elections time. His agenda claims that he has taken the responsibility of talking about the missing persons. We as a party, as Balochistan Awami Party, we have taken more of a responsibility how to better the livelihood of people of Balochistan.
Sure.
For me, it's very concerning. I'm very concerned if the people who at current times, I'm talking about the majority, 90%, 95% of the people they're not missing. Maybe there's a slight number of people who are missing, but the rest of the country, the province is not missing.
Yeah.
But what they're missing out is the services. They have schools, they don't have water, they don't have road, they don't have education properly, they don't have employment, they don't have a future to see.
Right.
I and my party are more concerned in addressing those issues. And I think so for Akhtar Mengal Saab, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to be at a single page with the current government, and he is already there. You know, if you see, his party is there, his party is engaging with them, and they are part of maybe not the coalition. They are part of the coalition, but they are sitting in the independent benches, and then they talk about opposition also. I think so. It's an opportunity which he should come in. He should do his utmost with the federal government to do the best for the people of Balochistan. What MQM is doing and for Karachi or Sindh. They're not focused on going into our cases and so and on things. They're like, please give us funds, develop Karachi, bring Hyderabad to par with other places and so on, and that's what's required basically.
That kind of prudent approach might be needed.
That is needed. That is the need.
Right, sir. That actually brings us to the end of the program. Thank you very much for your time, CM
Thank
sir.
you.
It was really a pleasure talking to you.
Same over here.
Viewers, you have listened to the Chief Minister. Since we don't seem to be focusing, or this country doesn't seem to be focusing, or its media at least doesn't seem to be focusing on Balochistan's situation, it is important to remember that a lot of great things are happening here. And in the past, every time Balochistan was mentioned, it was somehow weaponized to say that the state of Pakistan might not be delivering the way it was supposed to. Now when it does, astoundingly, the same people go mum or silent. It is important to see what is happening here. It is important to see how competent people are running the province. If we do that, maybe in coming days we can benefit from the upgradation and improvement of quality of governance in this province, which might actually set an excellent example. This was today's program. Thank you very much for watching us. Take care.